6 territory, the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples.
Thank you, Councillor. So we do have 2 additions to our agenda, and that's item 13.6, a building condition assessments, and item number 16.2, solicitor-client information. So if I can get the mover and the seconder for the approval as amended, moved by Councillor Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. Be it resolved that Council does hereby approve the agenda as amended. Those in favor? And that is carried. Item number 5, declaration of pecuniary interest, declaration of conflict of interest. I don't have any paperwork as of right now, and you can do that at any time during the meeting, Council. And I did regret to note that both Councillor Drago Stefanik and Councillor Peter Kistemaker have sent regrets for this meeting. So item 6.1 is the adoption of the minutes for the regular meeting of July 17th. We were looking at these minutes, and due to the presence of certain councillors not being here to be able to move and second those, we look to defer them to our next regular meeting. If I can get a mover and a seconder to defer item 6.1. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby defer item 6.1 to our next regular meeting. Those in favor? And that is carried. And 6.2 is the special meeting minutes. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby adopt the minutes of the special meeting of Council held on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024 is distributed. Any comment or corrections to those minutes? There being none, I put those to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. So we do have a presentation tonight, and I want to thank Sergeant Kevin Fellinger for coming to our council and speaking to us about O.P.P services in Hornepayne. And the floor is yours, Kevin. Welcome to council.
Thank you, Mayor Port. I don't, as per se, have a presentation, but I am here to answer any questions. And I know there were some concerns that were being brought forth by council and in the community. But you know, after a recent call that occurred in early July, and our response time being the issue, I can understand that the community was quite concerned about the current state of our policing, and I too share your concerns. I'm born and raised in Superior East in Wawa. I care for every one of these communities, and I too share that I wish we could be everywhere at all times. Currently, we are doing our best when it comes to allocating our resources. Our biggest challenge right now is recruitment. Recruitment, filling our vacancies that we have in all our communities. We are running at a 70% frontline availability. If we talk at Superior East as a whole, obviously WAW is a host attachment, that being the administrative place where I work out of. But Superior East incorporates the community of Foleyet, the community of Chapleau, Wawa, Duberville, White River, Hornepayne, and all the small communities in Parkina. Our highways extend from Highway 11 and 631 is our boundary, just west of White River, all the way down the Montreal River on Highway 17, up to Foleyet, and then so we're over 1,000 kilometers of highway. Summertime is our busiest time, obviously, with travel, traffic complaints, impaired driving, motor vehicle collisions. A huge part of our manpower has been assigned to dealing with complaints that come in on Highway 17. Not only with this, it's our challenge with our staffing. Staffing is peak vacation time, right? When we're running with already a vacancy issue, we have policies in place to allow only a certain amount of officers off at one time. But then we deal with an officer that's injured, an officer that's on paternity. You know, all these other challenges have come. So overtime is huge. It's approved, but then again, we have to manage it from a people perspective, right? I have many members that have worked, 14, 15 days in a row. we're mentally checking in on them to make sure that they can still do their job properly. So with that, it brings a lot of challenges. As I got back to the number one thing, so getting back to Superior East, I'm allocated 40 constables and 8 sergeants. Currently, I have 2 sergeants with vacancies, one of them being in what we call the North End, which is the north end of Wawa, which is White River and Hornepayne. When I refer to North End, I refer to both the communities of Wawa, Wawa and White River and Hornepayne, because that's where the 2 detachments are. I don't want to get into the exact staffing of how many people that are there. Obviously, I can discuss that off camera, but I am having a vacancy issue here, and we're doing our best to fill these. There's a lot of incentives to attract people here. That being with duration, there's extra incentive, and we are advertising. In fact, we just advertised tonight, putting it out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, trying to attract people to come to the north, because affordable housing, no commute, and it's a great place to live with our outdoors and everything it has to offer. Kind of, how do you say, anti-something? So we're doing our best. I have, when I get back to the vacancies, I have a model in my head that I'd like to see where we're going, and that is more officers in Hornepayne. The challenge we come to when it comes to Hornepayne is it's a 3-year duration. If I don't have enough bodies, when I say bodies, I mean members working there. When I have young members that come here and want to work in different career paths, whether it be emergency response, tactical response unit, or forensics, crime, there is unfortunately not a lot that happens in Hornepayne when it comes to that specialty calls for service. Even if they are in Hornepayne, most of the calls that they would attend would take them into the more populated areas of Sudbury, North Bay, Parkside. So it's very difficult to maintain my members here. We do get some, though. I have a member here that's been up here almost 10 years now and loves the community, and he's probably going to retire here. And I'd like to find more of those. But when it comes back to properly staffing Hornepayne, I need to have a model that works, because as members finish their duration, they transfer out, but I also need an experienced member to coach the recruit that comes in, which takes a year. And the way it works is that once somebody decides to leave, I can't fill that spot until that person is actually physically gone, which creates another void. It takes a year to put somebody in that vacancy. When there's schooling, there's background checks, there's recruitment, all of it. So it's an evolving window that I keep working hard to get there. Superior East, we're doing okay for staffing when we talk about the complete cluster compared to some of our other detachments that are struggling, that are in around the 60% frontline availability, and that are much more busier. So do they steal the new recruits sometimes more than me? It does happen. But I'm doing my part to kind of like to attract people here. I have members that reach out to me. I'm an ambassador for recruit ambassador. I make myself available all the time to if anybody is ever. And we've talked about this on our recruitment committee. Please send them my way, because if I can find somebody from Hornepayne that's interested in policing, I will mentor them and get them there, because I know they want to stay here, because this is home, and I'm staying there. This is where I want to stay, right? So with that, yeah, we're doing our best, and I think this was what led up to this. In part is my fault. We should have more communication. I should be at these meetings at least quarterly to sit down, to be available, to ask questions. You can talk to me at all. Mayor Fort has reached out to me many times just to ask quick questions. That's the way I work. But when we get back to this call or this occurrence, I see as a community, you came together without police and handled it as best you could. I appreciate that. We did come. We will always come. We'd be there within 5 minutes. I don't know. It depends where the officers are. Our model is we know where our officers are at all times. But that specific day, those members were dealing with something in White River. And obviously, this was a critical call that came in. There was numerous 911 calls that were happening. It was very fluid. You know, the way things rolled out, it was like, where's police, where's police, where's police, right? We were coming. We do, there's been certain circumstances where we pulled members down to Walla for a severe call, and first officers that are on Highway 11 have actually come down to Hornepayne to assist. So there's always options there, but don't ever think that we're not going to come. Yes, it might involve a phone call and say, hey, this call come in, can we get some clarity? And okay, we're en route. Can we call people out? Yes, we can if they're in the community, right? So there's always options, but I don't want you to ever feel that there's no police here and no police are never coming. We're coming, right? It's just, sometimes it's a delay, and I realize a lot of it fell on Miles' head, and we did a proper investigation. I know there was a lot of questions that came out of like, what can we do better as a community? I think you're doing a great job with the resources you have. I don't want to get into the specifics of the call, but could we as a community and as an organization do better for this individual? I think we can. But the way this rolled out at the time, and you know, properly investigated and spoke with each victim, and everyone had the same kind of compassion for the person, saying we need to do something better than just go this route, right? So again, and we've already talked, I dread the major occurrence that we're not there. I hope that never happens, but it is about moving our assets, our members around for the calls. So our members that are in the north end are responsible for the north end. They're up on highway 631 at the top end, the north end, where they could be down in there. Today they were dispatched to Duberville for a vehicle fire. Because our other officers were dealing with a serious call in Walla, and the other officers in Chapleau had 3 calls on the go. So today it was tough to see police officers, right? So I don't have an answer for you to say that we're always going to be like, we will attend the call, but I don't know if we can be there like within 2 minutes, within a minute, within a minute. So we're doing our best. And the biggest thing is recruitment. I got to get people here. I have to have a better model here, and I'm fighting for that because I want to have answers for you. So, is there things that you want to, like, questions? I know you have questions, and I think I've answered some of them in the memo, but I don't know if there's specific things that.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, I just wanted to ask, when you say, what are you hearing from the younger group vote? What are they looking for, like, that we don't have? Like
Younger recruits, is that what
yes, yes. Can you elaborate on that? What
We
we
went through a phase in policing where it was not looked upon as a good opportunity, I guess you can say. Obviously, social networking has really put a damper on our position, right? Like, people see, you know, they don't see the 45 minutes of an officer talking to somebody in crisis saying, excuse me, sir, we're here to help you, sir. We're going to get you help. It's the last 30 seconds of physically, you know, apprehending them or arresting them that the fight's on. And then people see that and say, it's not the kind of job I want, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be fighting, or I don't want, and then we see more negative on social networking about policing, like, you know, you're not doing your job, or we never see you, or we like, oh, I got a ticket, or you know, and you know, an officer gets done up with impaired. He's on national CTV news. I don't know if
I understand that part.
Yeah.
But for recruiting someone to come up to the north and keeping them here, what are they missing out that they want so badly? Is it just the city life, or you know what I mean?
Like I started my career in White River.
Yeah.
It was experience. Like I wanted to be, I didn't want to be a security guard. I wanted to use all this newfound knowledge that I had. I wanted to stop cars. I wanted to talk to people, investigate crime, and really get into my job, right? Find out where my niche was, right? Like what I wanted to do. I loved traffic. I loved Highway 17. I loved saving victims of human trafficking, warrants, drugs, guns, huge amounts of money. Like I lived for it, right? And we sometimes have to remind our officers up here and discuss this. Like Hornepayne is a very safe community. I've given you the analytics in my report compared to all of Superior, so you can see how busy we are as an organization. Superior's Hornepayne is very low on the crime side. You do a wonderful job in this community. I would tell the recruit that this is a very safe place to live. There's affordable housing, beautiful detachment, an awesome staff sergeant, detachment commander that works up here, and that's why I'm into recruitment, right? Like call me, use my email. But again, running the calls for service and the analytics, there's not a lot that happens in Hornepayne. And I would not want to have that conversation with junior recruits to say, what did you do today? Well, I didn't get a call for service. Did you stop a car? Yeah, I stopped 20 cars at the stop sign of French Street and Leslie, and I charged everybody. I'm like, we work with the community. I don't want that. Well, I need to do something. I want to learn this job. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Hit Highway 17 and let's get, the drugs that are moving between Thunder Bay and Toronto that are, taking a lot of lives. But again, we need to balance that, right? Because this is what happens where yes, there is drugs in our community. There is, everybody knows certain things, and then we assign projects. The speeding issue that you did have here, we did a focus patrol. I do see the analytical reports every week. I see that there's one person for some reason at 12 o'clock doing 30 over the speed limit. Every day we're going to get that person. But you know what? Most of your traffic is doing all above, 80% of the time it's 10 over 40, which gives us no enforcement action, right? But again, it's another thing that you guys have done. I'm very happy that you went down to 40 kilometers, keeps the community safe. And, but getting back to our recruits, it's tough.
Yeah.
It is very tough. When you're given all this in a car and go out and learn the job and interact. So I make sure that I want to see them in the schools. I want to see them foot patrol at the arena when there's functions going on. I need more communication. And Mayor Ford, I apologize for, I did not know about Hog Fest or whatever. I had no idea.
Fine.
Like I know this weekend is Winnie the Pooh, and I have resources in White River because it's just more people, right? There's more chance that people are coming home. There's alcohol. There's that. It's just whatever. But I need to know those events that we have.
Yeah, I think with our new board, once the board's up and running, we can have an avenue set up where we just send the annual calendar of these are the events that, where there's multiple people in and out of town, and that could change too, right? With the hotel being finished this year, we might see more of that. We're going to have a ballpark up at our arena. So
even if there's baseball tournament or hockey tournament or hurling or whatever it is, I need to know that, because then I'm like, okay, this is what's happening this weekend. I want to see some more foot patrol up here, because it is true. You see police in the community, you feel more safer. Problems, right?
And I have to say thank you for the response, because you picked up on a Saturday evening, and I appreciated that, because we didn't know if there was any coverage, and we were concerned that all of our resources were being utilized. And if something was like an unsafe incident, an accident, or anything within our community, and we did that for all of the services, like we reached out to the ambulance as well and just ensured, and we were thankful that everyone responded. Like it was a very intense evening, and I was really concerned too about our volunteers that were out fighting the fire, if they needed assistance, right? Like things can happen in those delicate situations where you're in, it's immediate danger that you're in, you're protected, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that people were here to protect them as well, right? So it was dealt with, and everyone came together. So thank you for that.
And I heard it was a wonderful, well-run event, because at first, when we first got knowledge of it, it was like, what is this? Is this just a big house party? No, this was an annual event that was very well run. And it was, our officers were kind of caught off guard saying, hey, Kevin, this is a good event. Like the person running it has checked every box, responsible, and it's a community event. I'm like, oh, wow, I wasn't aware of that. Again, that's my fault. And we'll have more communication with it, but I would like to know more of that, so we can I can make my front line aware too. Because like during the biggest, the provincial traffic initiatives, like my officers are expected to be out on the roads on the busiest times, like the long weekends, right? That's where we see more fatalities, more impaired driving, more movement of people, right? So I send out like a quota, but if you're not doing a call for service, you're out on the highway, being visible, slowing traffic, and there's no warnings that weekend, right? It's about saving lives, right? So, and just this weekend, like there's a couple of fatals this weekend, one being in Nairn Center. So we got to be on those highways too, right? So, just had something come to my what I am, one of my biggest challenges right now is my community safety officer, who's actually Nicholas, transferred to Sault Ste. Marie. She has done so much good work in our communities with schools when it comes to the bullying, anti-bullying program, the drug awareness, and that. So I'm trying to find somebody to fill that void. And I've already had the school year starting, and it's like, hey, is Ashley coming up this year? Is we doing this program again? So I'm really going to take a hit on that, and it's a special job. It's basically, I am a specialist. Community safety is huge because they are the contact person of so many. Like, hey, we noticed that a lot of kids are vaping in school. Oh, I have a presentation that I can do with the school. So even though she went to the Sioux, I'm still stealing her. So I'm paying her accommodations to come up and overtime because I'm not allowing all that good work in all these communities that she's done to go to waste. Because if we're not doing that, all of a sudden we're not visible in the schools, we're not visible in the communities. Really, you could start to see that trend, right? So,
it's important, Kevin, it's important to build that relationship with young people from, a young age, like if it's grade 6 or wherever, the classrooms, the different things when you go in to speak with them, because people need to know where they can go for safety and trust their officers in their community. Like even that, like it's knowing who's in your community, right?
Yeah. And you wouldn't believe, just walking in the school, somebody pulls you aside and said, hey, I need help, or do you know about this? And it's like, wow. So it's being out of that car and walking. And I do have I do task my frontline leadership that I want to see those numbers, and I want to see those hours allocated to foot patrol and community patrol and things like that. So we, in the new service delivery model, we have where an officer should be spending their time. And it's 34% for calls for service, 40% for admin. So that would be training, shift prep, doing work briefs, all those that. And 5% allocated to community service, being schools, hospital visits, foot patrol in the community. It should add to 100%.
So with the new recruits, is there an age to apply the O.P.P? Like a minimum?
Well, my graduating class, there was 2 recruits that were 19. The common age when I graduated in 2008 was between 28 and 33. People that had a lot of life experience that were, military background or industrial, there was people with trades and that has shifted now. I'm starting to see a lot more. 21 is probably the youngest. But I would say your common age now is probably 23 to 20.
Oh.
Yeah. And we're getting good recruits. I know when I started, I had 3 kids and mortgage at home. I was kind of like, I'm dedicated to my career, but I could not expand. I wanted to get into crime or hurt. It takes me away from home. I have an officer that's less than 2 years on the job. He wants to be K9, and K9 is completely live with the dog, dedicated, on call, almost the whole year. And he did very well in the assessment phase, missed a little bit, but he's only got 2 years on the job. And the areas that he actually missed was the areas he's just not good at being a police officer yet, like investigating, right? So a little bit more experience will get him there. So I really take this energy that these recruits bring and say, like, where do you want to go in our organization? What can I do to get you there? Which involves training, right? So I'm offering them courses. Unfortunately, these courses are in Aurelia or North Bay. Some of them are starting to be online where they can work out of detachment, which is good. Because you're in a hotel and it's cost but I really, a lot of them that I've built up so well, unfortunately, they've gone to different units, which is another catch-22, right? I want those. Like, I have an officer that one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's my standard field sobriety instructor. He's a drug recognition officer. He's a breath tech. He's a technical collision investigator, and now he's teaching courses, and he just left. He's leaving at the beginning of next month. But I'm glad for our organization that we have somebody there, but it really pulled out, I only had 2 drug recognition officers in Superior East. I'm down to 1. So a drug recognition officer is basically, it's kind of like you're the intoxilizer. You're an expert to say that this person is under the influence of meth and is impaired to drink. So when it comes to court, they do a standard set of tests to determine what level of impairment they're at and what kind of type of drug they're. So it's some pretty heavy training. You got to be very good at your job. But then again, I've lost that. So
yeah, I agree with Ted. It's a catch-22, but you need it because
I need
every
it for my
person,
communities,
but
right?
every person that's come and done that training,
Yes.
they're going to be ambassadors to say, go up to Superior East and you can go up there. Like, even if we have them for 3 years, out of the ones that come, like you had mentioned earlier, we have one in our own community that's been here 10 years.
Yes.
So you do find those, but you have to keep
that 10 years, he's coached 8 recruits.
Okay.
Like, I love him.
Yeah.
But he's coming to the end of his career, and I want to wire him out. I need other people to carry that torch, right? And so, again, it's just another one of my challenges.
So I just had one question about the police board. When do you see that being fully up and running? And
so my understanding, the only thing that is holding us back right now is the insurance. Maybe you can comment on that, Mayor Ford. The new O.P.P detachment board does not fall under the Municipal Act. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. And there is an insurance issue in the province when it comes to getting these boards going. Other than that, I think we're ready.
Yeah, because we have all our members.
Yeah.
Everything's ready to go on that end.
We're ready on our end too.
Okay.
And we just can't meet and have a quorum yet because I wanted to meet in June to kind of get introductions going. The report here, the analytical report I provided you, this will be what the O.P.P detachment board gets. So this will be a constant flow of information of our analytics. They're going to get better and better as we go too. But it's a good snapshot for what's going on in our communities. plus there'll be some conversation of where are we at with our staff? Like, what are your plans? It's huge transparency. I'm very excited to get this board going. Walla had a police service board. It was the only police service board in Superior East. I enjoyed my conversations with them. It was a lot of back and forth, talk about, initiatives, struggles, challenges, and always something that, hey, did you know this is happening? Or we can talk about complaints that we're receiving in the community. So I'm very excited to get that road going. I'm hoping it gets going in September, but I have not heard anything about the insurance. We are talking about all of Ontario.
Mhm.
There is not one detachment board going yet. And it's part of the new community safety and policing act.
So the board report that you're referring to,
Yes.
will those, they'll be publicly available? Okay, so then we can have them and then have them
Yeah.
as a report on our.
The only thing
agendas.
they've asked that we don't break it down per community.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more of like, you can see all the series. I did for this council meeting. It's kind of, and I could always do that for you if there's things that you want to talk about. But I kind of wanted to show you where Hornepayne fits in the mix.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was blown away by how good things are going here. I know it's easy for me to just look at pieces of paper and say this is great. But talking with people, and I know this one call, I'm sure there's other calls where people say, "We're please," but again, getting back to that, we're doing very well here. Yes.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. I just want to, of course, say thank you for your service and stuff, and to all the members. And the recruitment is obviously a challenge because, like, even I have a son who's 33,
Mhm.
and he's looking at naps. We both work on reserves, and he's saying, I got O.P.P where I have a schedule where I have naps where I have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, going on First Nation policing and stuff, and seeing but it's the same. He's looking at it and saying, I liked my time in Hornepayne. This is nothing to do. So, I mean, you've got your hands full.
It is.
I mean, it's just to be able to do that, because if they're not a hunter and a fisherman, you've got to, or if they have a wife. I have one son who has a wife who won't go home north of Barrie. It's like, I need shopping and stuff, right? So that's done. But my observation, and it's probably what I get, is my frustration. And I drink coffee early in the morning, and I have guys dropping in, and we see the cars heading south.
Mhm.
First thing in the morning, and you see it like between 20 after 7 and 8 o'clock, and zoom, 1 or 2 cars are gone south, and that's it for the day. And so that's the frustration that I think as ratepayers and as counselors, and that's our frustration. Is we just see it leaving. It isn't like they've even made a pass through town. It's just like gone, checked in, and boom, they're away. And I feel for you, but as a taxpayer, and that's the frustration, what I hear from people.
Before the meeting started, I went over some of the things that are very important to me. Number one is I can't not have an office or work alone. I started my career in White River, going through the same challenges, and there was many times that that was my patrol area. It was a different organization back then, but I was working alone. And as a new recruit, sitting there waiting for that call for a violent domestic or something where I needed to go, we have policy that you don't attend a domestic or a critical call, a benchmark call alone. But then how do you feel not answering that call? Do you get done up with neglect of duty? So I can't put any of my members in that position. Sometimes, and I don't want to get into our staffing challenges too deep, an officer will show up, start his or her tour duty here, and be told that there is no backup here. They are on their way to work with backup. So we'll have, they may, like it was we were short 2013 to 15, I think, where I know there was an officer that every time he started, he drove to Walla for 6 months straight. Every time he started, right? Because there was just not enough to send up here. I put a lot of pressure on my frontline sergeants that if we have this quota, there is no reason that everybody should be sitting in a row. Like if I'm coming in and I see a certain amount of officers and there's nobody up north, there's questions have to be answered, because I'm telling them our communities need a presence. This response, when we have this many officers down here, is unacceptable. So if something major happens and we have all this here, we are going to have to speak to it as an organization, and it's not going to go very well. We're not going to look in our real life. So be it known that the reason why you might see that is somebody's working alone, or there's something else going on that we need to pull them down. And that's why I wanted to, like, I don't want to say that, you know, this many times there's your community's left. Your community's always least, but we might not be visible. And I agree with you. And I have a model in my brain or in my head that where I want to get with Hornepayne, because White River is closer to Wawa, and we already mostly have assets on Highway 17. So we're closer to White River, right? When Hornepayne's empty, we're farther. First will always back us up, but Wawa is a 2-hour drive. I don't care if you're doing 200 or you're doing 100, you're getting to Hornepayne same time with that 631. And I've done it before, and I don't want anybody doing it, because we just put the public at risk, the officers at risk. At 2 a.m. coming here for a critical call, it's a bad drive. Moose Highway. So my sergeants know the reason why they're pulling somebody is because they just don't have that opportunity to make sure that somebody is working together, right? And we're going to get there. Again, this will be conversations that I'll have with the detachment board that you'll all be aware of. I just want to be very careful of. I don't want to get too far into staffing. So, and I agree with you. If I had lived in the community and be like, oh, they're gone again. Is there anybody here? And it's different. Our model is I do have an overlap here too. When they call, like, when you look at analytics, when do calls for service happen? Most of them happen between 10 and 10. That's the way it just historically looked that way. 10 in the morning till 10 at night are our peak call period times, right? So why do I have 2 officers at 4 in the morning sitting in a detachment when there's 0.1% of the calls that actually come in at that time, right? Is there a potential for something major to happen? Yes. But historically, you can look at analytics over 10 years or even longer, there's a very, very minute call. So I need to put people when we need them. And I do have an overlap here that works at that peak call period time that will help them. So sometimes you might think, well, there goes that person not in the community, but there's 2 people starting earlier, right? So again, it's a balancing act too, and supporting all our communities, right? So and Hornepayne's not the first. All my communities are like, where are you? In Duberville right now with the mine expansions, some 2,500 people are, and they're having most of the camps are dry, so beer's still being sold and driving's still happening and things are still happening that they want us visible, you know. Highway 101 between Chapel and Foleyet, the dump trucks, they want more visibility there. It's making sure my front line is tasked with something, right? And they're busy. They are extremely busy. And I just need more bodies. So we'll get there. And I have this for the region. They're aware of this. I'm speaking the goodwill of Hornepayne, saying this call, yeah, that was very unfortunate.
And I want to give you a shout out too, because Kevin attends regularly in his busy schedule to our community recruitment that we do here in Hornepayne as a committee. And which, you know, we saw great success with Ads Up and hiring the paramedics and heard about that. And so I just want to thank you for that and the involvement in that. And I'll wrap it up here and just ask for any final questions at this time from council.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so
thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hope to not be more of a stranger. Sorry
Yeah,
about
no, it's okay. From my end, I don't think you're a stranger at all. We had regular meetings all through the pandemic, and I see you online in meetings, so I don't feel like you're a stranger at all. And I do appreciate you coming in person
Thank you.
to Hornepayne, and I know that you're driving back tonight, so
Do some patrol and
yeah,
a couple tickets on the way.
giving everyone a heads up out there.
I did see some key belts in the community. I was like, oh.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing about when the board's up and running and
Yes.
communicating that
Very
way.
excited.
Yeah, I think that'll be a benefit for our community. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
I'm going to stay. Is it okay? Or?
Yeah, you're welcome to stay for sure. Okay, so moving on with our agenda, we have the departmental reports. If I can get a mover and a seconder to put the motion on the floor. Moved by Councillor Ted Chenman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the departmental reports provided at the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. And I do want to note to council that we will be going into closed at 7 p.m. So if it will come back to the reports if we're not done by the 7 p.m. So the first report is the CAO clerk's report. Eileen, do you have anything you'd like to add to your report?
Nothing for my report, but I'll take any questions from council if they have any.
Thank you. So I open up the floor for questions from council.
Maybe I have one. You know, the HHJ, THM exceedances, you met, with KGS on July the 10th. I was just wondering what came out of that meeting. Like, I know you met, but is there anything good coming from it so far, or is it in a planning stage, or?
Yeah, so they're working on, they requested background information from staff. So we've provided them with quite a bit of information, so they'll need some time to go through that. And then they are working on the project timeline. They did a site visit near the end of July 31st. So it was great to meet, I think it's JP, I forgot his name, but one of the members of the team that we're working with from KGS, and that was great. The site visit was great. So now they just have a lot of information, so they'll be doing some background work on their end, and we are going to have bi-weekly meetings, and I believe one is coming up. I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, they're very they seem great to work with so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a follow up to that, are we getting the timeline that they're going to create at council to see?
Yeah, I think it would be fine to share with council. So I don't have it as of yet, but once I do, I can advise council of the project timeline.
Okay, great. Belinda, go ahead.
Under the MP coming, Terry Sheehan, can you elaborate on what kind of things you discussed with the View Rail hindrances? Just
Mayor Fort, if you want to speak to that, because I can't recall.
Sure, yeah, I can speak to that. So we just discussed that because that's our federal MP and V is regulated under federally, that I brought that up again about our VIA not running on time through the community, and that it's a loss of economic opportunity for our community, for a small business per se, or any of our businesses that are open, and highlighted it as well as that it's not a reliable mode of transportation for, like, I would never take it to go to a meeting per se in Toronto, right? Like, I can't rely on that. Whereas if it was run in a reliable manner where you could, 95% of the time you were going to make it to Toronto, I would get on the VIA. I would, because you could travel through the evening, I'd get there in the morning, and I wouldn't have to drive or fly or wait in airports or anything like that. And it takes me right downtown for some of the meetings. And when we look at health for people traveling for health, especially into Sudbury for the cancer hospital there, that would be a place where we could utilize it, but we can't because it's not reliable. So that was those were the type of questions or type of information that I had given to him to highlight. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And just to take note too, we are coming up to an election. So I think a lot of this was trying to gather like election topics for them. So if some of these become election topics, then we can hold them to account, right? Hey, you
Yeah.
said you're gonna do this for the north and we need to do it. So,
Okay.
any further questions for the CAO's report? Okay. We'll move on to the acting treasurer's report. So just the treasurer, public works manager, and the economic development officer are not here with us this evening, but Eileen will take any questions back and bring them back to our September 4th meeting. So I'll open up the floor for questions for the treasurer's report. Okay, I did have a few questions during our agenda review this morning, just talking about the grant application for the fire protection. I just noticed as we go down to that portion, I'll speak to that about that the fire master plan is in our strategic plan, and I want to ensure that our motions align with our strategic plan. And it was just noted that there was a misalignment there. The other portion too, I really liked this project updates about the new multi-residential property subclass. I think this is something that we could utilize in Hornepayne. My one question for it is, what is the minimum units for this multi-residential? And then that links back into the water rates that we're going to be looking at for our multi-res back on page 3 of Richard's report. So I think that there's two things hand in hand there that might work well together while he's researching that. Go ahead. Linda.
When that multi-class thing that you're talking about, I thought, well, probably Ben Cohen would want us to be looking into that.
Yeah, well, with anything on any of the new builds, right? Like, and it's for new or converted units, right?
Yeah.
So that would fit one converted unit
Yeah.
there for those Alcona apartments. But really what I'm looking at is the new build, right? We have it in documents multiple times now that we have to diversify our housing stock. We can't just have single residents being built. We need to have a multi-unit residential building, something similar to the Parkview Apartments again, and also to have senior housing. So something that, so the people that live here for a lifetime can age at home. So I think that's, so I'm looking forward to seeing if that, and do we need, is that going to come back to council? Does Richard need direction from council to look into this further?
I don't believe so. It sounds like we'll look into your question about whether if there's a minimum for units. I can easily reach out to MPAC and get that answer from them, and then I'll just update Richard. And I guess if anything, we might need a motion to move forward with a bylaw. I'm not sure, Jen. No,
I think we can just,
draft one for.
yeah.
So this might come back then to the September 18th meeting, just because it wouldn't be feasible for the September 4th meeting.
Yeah, and I don't even know if this is, when you're looking at builds, like if we were to have this in place and we had a draft that was put on, say, the end of October, early November, that to me would fit better in a timeline, because really the utilization of this document will happen next year, right? For a new build. And then we could also reach out to the Housing Corp and get their feedback on it too. I want to thank the treasurer for looking into the long-term loans. And if there's any help that I can be with Infrastructure Ontario for us to get an answer, I have no problem doing that. I do have one question about the budget and financial control policy for Richard. Is just wondering about the timeline and what exactly will all be recruited in the reports that he's saying that he's planning to prepare. Just because the control policy itself as it sits has multiple reporting, like there's project reporting, capital reporting. So I was just kind of wanted to get an understanding of what the full breadth of these reports that are coming. And I want to see them. So those are my comments for that. Any further comments for the treasurer's report?
just that when you look at the capital loan section under the CIBC, why aren't the banks trying to work with people?
Mhm.
It's upsetting. They're putting us in a bad situation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, like I think there could be some, if we look at the full long-term loans, like from a governance perspective at this council table with Infrastructure Ontario, that's a place where we can push the government, like change those, like the paybacks on those. There shouldn't be a penalty if we're able to pay it back. And like, to me, there's no incentive then to get, it just becomes a line item for the next 20 years on your budget line. Whereas there could be an incentive there. Especially if you do have some sort of like a fundraising plan or some sort of action plan, a growth plan where you're attracting people and a certain percentage of any of that growth is going right back to a debt repayment, right? So that we can eventually be debt free, hopefully one day, or manageable. Okay, so we'll move on to the Public Works Manager's report. Any questions for that? Go ahead.
I just wanted to add to the Public Works Manager's report that there was a new columbarium just installed earlier this week at the cemetery. So just an update for the council, and it's two-sided.
Okay, thank you for that. Just in his next report in September, can we just have a full detail of that, like how many spaces it is? And because that is an action item that we fulfilled. I do have a question about the pavilion washroom. It says that it's planning to have the curb stop and water connection done. Do we have a date or an installation date for this? So I'm just going to, I'm on page 3 of Dwayne's report.
I don't have any further information for this, but sorry, just one sec. I believe that we've got it in the works. I just don't know the exact date.
Okay,
yeah,
we could just bring that back to our September 4th meeting. And I want to give a shout out to the Public Works staff for the repairs that they did at the park. And I believe it was Jay that fixed up the chair. Did he build a new chair or did he refurbish the one that was there? Because it says refurbished, but it was yellow. So did he pressure wash it?
I believe that he refurbished it. I'm not sure exactly what the details are in that, but
it looks fantastic. And I shout out, I think it was Aaron Bin that originally built the first one. So, so anyway, I have no more questions there. And we'll go to the last report, the Economic Development Officer's report. Any questions for the EDO? Okay, there being none, I'll put those reports to a vote to acknowledge receipt. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we only have 6 minutes, so we could do the first correspondent action item, 10.1. And this comes from the HHC. So if I can get a mover and a seconder to read the motion, moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Glenn Kistmaker. Whereas the township has received correspondence from Hornepayne Housing Corporation, HHC, regarding the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, Green Municipal Fund, GMF, Sustainable Affordable Housing Initiative, SAH. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Hornepayne, does hereby provide in principle support for the Hornepayne Housing Corporation's application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, Green Municipal Fund, GMF, Sustainable Affordable Housing, SAH, initiative to explore and initiate solutions for increasing the Parkview Apartments energy efficiency. And just on that motion, I did ask that I wanted to ensure that this doesn't affect any of the funding that we want to apply for in town. I had asked that question earlier today, and we don't believe it does. Okay, is there any further comment on that motion? Okay, those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll continue on to 10.2. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shenneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Whereas employers across Northern Ontario are experiencing a critical shortage of skilled workers contributing to a shrinking labor market. And whereas the labor shortage is causing significant economic hardship for Northern Ontario communities, including reduced productivity and business closures. And whereas population and migration trends in 2021 suggest that Northern Ontario needs 100,000 newcomers by 2041 to sustain current population. And whereas the success of the federal rural and Northern immigration pilot, RNIP, demonstrates the effectiveness of allocating nomination spots to address regional labor shortages and attracting newcomers to Northern Ontario. And whereas the Ontario Immigration Nominee Program has been expanded from 9,750 nominees in 2022 to a goal of 21,500 nominees in 2024. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation, the Township of Hornepayne, does hereby urge the Government of Ontario to address the critical labor market shortage in Northern Ontario by allocating 3,000 Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program spots to support the region's economic growth and development. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable David Piccini, Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, Michael Mantha, MPP, Algoma, Manitoulin, the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FNOM, and the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce. And just some discussion on that motion for council. You do have the information there. The Northern Policy Institute, along with the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce, organized a meeting and reached out to several leaders across Northern Ontario. And there were several of us on the call on July 25th, where they discussed this about advocating to the Ontario government so that we have a certain amount of the nominee program that's allocated right for the North. So I'm a big supporter of this. I know it would help within our community to attract people that can apply for permanent residency. So do you have any questions on that meeting or that motion?
That's good.
Okay, I'll put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we have 3 minutes before the hour, so I'm going to break there and we'll have to move into closed and then we'll just take a short 5-minute break to let the staff get everything set up. So if I can get a mover and a seconder to move the next meeting into close, moved by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker, second by Councillor Ted Shannon. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting at 6:58 p.m. will be closed to the public in order to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, pursuant to Section 239(2)(b)(d)(f) of the Municipal Act 2001. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, okay, council, we are moving back into open. If I can get a mover and a seconder to return to open, moved by Councillor Ted Sherman, second by Councillor Belinda Kickmaker, be it resolved that the council, the corporation, the town does hereby return to open council at 8:30 p.m. Those in favor? And that is carried. So we do have two items arising out of the closed session. The first one will be the appointment of S. Curran to our Hornepayne Public Library Board. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kickmaker, second by Councillor Ted Sherman. Whereas per section 11(1) of the Public Libraries Act, the township has provided public notice of one vacancy on the library board, and whereas the township has received applications from one qualified applicant for section 10 of the Public Libraries Act, therefore be it resolved that council does hereby appoint S. Kern to the Hornepayne Public Library Board. Any further discussion on that motion? I would just like to thank you to Samantha for applying, and I hope you have a great time on the library board. It was the first place that I really got involved with public service. Those in favor? And that is carried. And the second item that we have coming out of close will be discussed on item 13.6 of our open discussion. So we'll leave that until then. And we'll continue on now back in our regular agenda items where we were at. Sorry, I gotta get to it. And we were on item 10.3, council. We're at the support for nurse practitioners. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kickmaker, second by Councillor Ted Sherman. Whereas council received correspondence from the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA, dated July 16th, 2024, regarding the support for nurse practitioners and requesting that nurse practitioners obtain billing numbers. Therefore, be it resolved that the council, the corporation, the township of Hornepayne does hereby support and endorse the attached letter and resolution 2024-32 from the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA, requesting support for nurse practitioners. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FNOM, the Association of Ontario Municipalities, AMO, and the Northeastern Ontario Municipal Association, NEOMA, and the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA. Any further discussion on that support resolution? There being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, the next item is 10.4, and it's the Ontario Forest Industries Association immediate action needed to support Ontario's forest sector. There is a motion on the suggested to us for this item. I do want to discuss with council that forestry is a mainstay in our community for economic growth and development. I do want to support this action, but I was wondering if we would defer it to our next meeting, which is on September 4th, so that we can have a motion suggested that highlights the need for Hornepayne, that meets along instead of just a couple sentences in a support. I think it would be stronger action taken, and we have staff that can word things brilliantly for our community. So I would like to utilize that. If council's in favor, we'll put the motion on the floor to defer to the next meeting. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder, then moved by Councillor Ted Sherman and second by Councillor Belinda Kickmaker. Be it resolved that the council of the corporation, the township of Hornepayne, does hereby defer item 10.4 to our next regular meeting of council. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, 10.5, Eileen, you'd like to speak to this?
Yes, I just wanted to let council know that based on this report from Pension, that they did advise that they noted that the concentrations at monitoring wells BH1 and BH6-22 are elevated and will require continuous monitoring of these wells. They recommend that the continuation of the contaminant management plan and groundwater monitoring at the site and a geodetic ground survey be conducted to better understand the groundwater flow at the site. And if council has any questions, please let me know and I can get back to Pension with those questions or relay it to Pension.
Okay, I'll open up the floor for questions from council.
Oh, it was a good report. Thank you very much, Mayor. It's very explanatory.
So with, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the need is there to continue that monitoring. So
Okay. And so throughout the monitoring, when are we going to be getting provided updates? Are they going to be in?
They provide these reports yearly, so they'll just continue doing what they're currently doing and just continue with the groundwater monitoring program.
Okay. Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to acknowledge or hereby receive the report. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shenman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive the groundwater monitoring and sampling report for 18 Becker Road as provided by Pinchin Limited. Any further discussion on the motion? Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, Township of Hearst, Northeastern Public Health Board of Health composition. And this is for council discussion. If we want to bring back a motion to our next meeting, either in support or for, or if we have discussions on this item. And I open up the floor to council.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I read that over and over again several times, and I'm not sure where we would benefit, whether or not.
I'm worried we won't benefit at all.
Well, but in which cluster would we?
Yeah, where do we fit?
Which would give us the best potential to be able to have the best representation?
Well, I want to first say that I applaud the corporation of the Township of Hearst of taking action in putting this out there, that because I do have concerns about the composition of the board, because currently right now we have one member for our community, and we're going down now to where we're going to share amongst several larger well, one in particular community, and then two, that there is a language divide that we do struggle with already with, and I enjoy being part of anything that happens in Hearst and that sort of in that way, like we make do. But if we were to have, say, a solely French-speaking candidate representing us, that would put challenges forward. So I do have, and I have to say I was not surprised when I saw this come, because I had thought about it when we first saw the composition of the board. And the other item that I thought of too, and we deal with this on our ADSAP board, Hornepayne, White River, and Duberville are all combined with one representative, but there's no extra support for that representative. So there's no, and this would go for any of the other representatives that do multiple areas, is there's no expenses given for time or the extra meetings that you have to conduct to ensure that you're properly representing the constituents in that area and those councils. So I can see this being an issue as well on the new Hornepayne Health or the new health board.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
There will be. I don't know how, yeah. I think it's, for me, it's when it comes to the voting. Because it means everything. That's even on the ASAP side,
Mm-hmm.
you know? It was always an issue for me. That's where I feel that we get left out a lot.
Yeah, because when you look into geographical distance, so we're gonna have one vote now from Hornepayne to Kapuskasing, to the borders of Cap, right? Let me read that again. So that's a 2-hour area in there, and we find that I have to agree with Counselor Kistemaker about the other boards we're involved with where we're the north end of the Algoma area. Because we end up at this end and then the vote on this end is 2 votes on adds up. And yet the rest of the board and the votes and everything come from the southern part of the riding. So, or the district. So. So do you think, just looking at Hearst's resolution, are we in agreement that there should be possibly a reconsideration to reassign certain municipalities from the rural northern cluster to Capscasing or Cochrane? I personally would like to see more of our votes kept northwest. And that there possibly, and I've said this before, boards need to start encompassing geographical distances within their areas too. Because it leaves the further northern western communities when we're dealing with the east out in the cold on some of the topics being discussed.
I wouldn't be offended, Madam Mayor, if we put this off until Councillor Stefanik is back and there's a little more insight into what's going on with the PHU, seeing he sits there.
Yeah, so we do have this on council discussion, but so that we have something to come that we can work with for the staff to bring for a recommended motion. Go ahead.
The deputy clerk has.
Oh, go ahead.
If you want for September 4th, I can draft a motion of support and then it can be discussed and amended or changed as.
Okay, we can go forward with that and then we'll have our other 2 counselors with us and we can have further discussion. Because I have to say, I do understand some of the concerns that are happening from Hearst perspective with their motion. It's just from a Hornepayne perspective, how do we best support Hearst and best support our future on the health unit board? And just for clarification, yeah, can we get clarification too when we bring this back about the health unit board? That these rotating, so if we're within a cluster of 7 communities, the term of the board length, because if it's 7 communities and they get 1 term each council, we're looking at 28 years between times of serving, right? Am I getting that right? 7 times 4? Yeah.
Would it, yeah. If they were to change it to 2 members within would it be fair? The 2 can, instead of just having 1, you'd have 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
2 that rotate among the 7 communities. Yeah. That would definitely be an improvement. Oh, here we go. Yeah, because when you look at the breakdown, if you go from Capscasing beyond, we're going to have 3 seats on this end, including Caps. Yeah, I have to agree with Hearst on this. And maybe that's what it is, expand it from 13 appointees to 15. And add 2 seats. So no one's losing a seat, but we put an addition. There's the same rotation item that we have is gonna happen to that other group. The rural north, I think it's rural north. Rural central south, rural south. So when we bring this back for deferred, these items that are included will be included again in our package?
We can include the same documents. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll leave that further discussion on 10.6 to next council. Okay. Okay, moving on for 10.7. This was something that was sent to me. I forwarded Eileen for your information on for council's discussion. My honest opinion on it sounds like a great project for a larger center that has capacity. I don't think we have any capacity for this right now. If we were at a place where we had our tourism trail done and had built up our community, maybe this is something we look forward to doing into the future. But right now we have to get our community up and running completely first. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay. Go ahead.
Can I recommend a motion to receive this information?
Sure, we can do that. So Jen's recommending a motion to receive the City Embassies Hub as information. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive the City Embassies Hub information as information.
Did we do a motion to defer the last one, the open one?
10.6, we didn't do a deferral. We just had it for council discussion and we're going to
bring it
discuss it
back.
further.
Yeah.
So you want a deferral for that one? Okay.
Sorry.
So if I can get a deferral for 10.6 as well, moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. So be it resolved that council does hereby defer item 10.6, Town of Hearst Northeastern Public Health Board of Health composition to our next regular meeting. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11, correspondence information only. If I can, Eileen, you wanted to speak to a couple of items?
Yes.
Oh, before you do that, I'll just open up the floor. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the correspondence information only package attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Go ahead.
I just want to bring a few items to council's attention. 11.3, the AMO Advanced Counselor Training Workshops. Just wanted to let council know, should they be interested in taking any of these, that the workshops are offered virtually only. And if you click on the registration link for each one, it just indicates at the bottom just the details and the fact that it's virtual. For 11.7, which is the Ontario Ombudsman 2023-2024 annual report. There's a digital copy there for you, but there's also a physical copy by your mailboxes as well, should you choose to look at that in person. And that is it for info only.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any items from info only that you'd like to highlight? Although Councillor Drago Stefanik isn't here, I do want to congratulate him on 11.2 for the Indigenous Cultural Safety Training Certificate of Completion. And those are all my items. Okay, there being no further discussion on 11, if I can get those in favor of acknowledging receipt. Belinda, you're in favor? Yes, okay, that's carried. Okay, item number, we're on committee and boards 12.1. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the committee and board meeting minutes attached to the agenda of their regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. And they are listed there. And any comments on the motion or those minutes? Okay, there being none, or go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry, I don't think you met him. Sorry.
Okay. There being none, I put that motion to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Item 12.2 is the Municipal Fire Department Committee Ad Hoc. And there's a staff report there. Eileen, did you want to speak to your staff report?
I just wanted to mention to council, sorry, I'm just opening up my report. That there are, should council wish to proceed with the committee, there are a few recommendations. Staff then recommends that the committee be established to review the 2019 SDR recommendations for the fire department and just prioritize them accordingly. And that council and the committee ensure that the fire underwriter survey and the fire master plan are completed first due to its importance. And I do want to mention it's stated in the 2019 SDR for the fire department, but it's also in the township's current strategic plan. The fire master plan is a P3, so priority 3 on the strat plan, and then the fire underwriter survey is a P2. So just wanted to give that update, and then the committee would report through council on a biannual basis on the status of the SDR recommendations for the fire department. And if you just go further down into my report, I advise as to what items from the SDR are completed or ongoing or started, and then what items that are still outstanding. There's about 5 there. I mentioned the SDR just because initially it was just thought out that it might be like a fire service delivery review that this committee would be potentially doing, but there is a bit of a municipal government wayfinders back in 2019 did pretty much complete a bit of a roadmap for the fire department. So there is items that have been outlined that have been prioritized or recommended already from that review.
Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder for the report. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive staff report number CAOSR 2024-07, Municipal Fire Advisory Committee as information. Any further discussion on the report? And we can discuss the report, and the next item too is 12.3. Okay, we'll put this to a vote to receive for information first. Those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to 12.3 is the Fire Department Ad Hoc Committee, terms of reference and appointment. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby approve the attached terms of reference for the Fire Department Ad Hoc Committee. Be it further resolved that council does hereby appoint the following to the Fire Department Ad Hoc Committee: Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, Councillor Peter Kistemaker, alternate Councillor Ted Cheneman, Fire Chief Miles Wallingford, Deputy Fire Chief Marion Klazowski, Volunteer Firefighter Captain Mark Van Breda, Volunteer Firefighter Kyle Vaughn, Volunteer Firefighter Steve Tremblay, alternate for Volunteer Firefighter Jesse Steele, alternate for Volunteer Firefighter Jennifer Rickett. And now we can have a discussion on the motion and the recommendations in the previous report. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention to council, which is through the deputy clerk had completed the terms of reference, and she, I know council had directed staff or advised that they would like a plan by January 2025. We didn't put the completion date just because it allows the committee and council more flexibility to complete the items. It was also done just because there will be limited staff as of October 1st. And it may not be feasible to complete all tasks perhaps outlined by council or the committee by January 2025. So we just wanted to allow for that flexibility for council.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Okay, discussion on the terms of reference for the fire department ad hoc committee. Just as that is included in the resolution that we are approving them as well.
If I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Not so much a matter of discussion of the terms of reference as whether or not forming this committee will hinder the job that, or the work and the duty that Miles, our chief, has to be able to do. Is this going to add another step that will prolong him being able to get through? That was the concern that I had when I read through this. Is it going to?
Are we going to hinder?
Yes. Yes. Is forming this committee going to hinder his work, or is it going to be able to help us with seeing there's already things that are behind the 8 ball? The previous.
I'm not sure. Through you, Eileen, to the fire chief. Do you think this committee is going to hinder your work?
I think so. In the terms of reference, it says that I'll be allowed to do whatever I need to do, and that I'm not told to do by this committee. So I don't think it'll hinder it. I think getting together with counselors and people with experience will help us. I don't see any harm in it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, great. The one thing that I'd like to just add that I don't see this committees don't do the actual hard labor work, right? It's not a researching group. It's really to get the people around the table to have a discussion on these items and how you think you would get them accomplished. So when we look at the 2 items from our strategic plan of our master fire plan and the underwriter survey, within the committee mandate, I would see those as being, how are you going to get them done? What's the advice to council of getting them done? Do we look at a company to do them, a consultant, and the order of those? And is there anything missing elsewhere that we should be getting done? So when I think of I just don't want us to get bogged down in the minutia of the doing of all the work. It's more of like, okay, we need to get to the master plan and the fire survey done, or the underwriter survey all done. That needs to be done. But then we also have our building, our looking at what the firefighters need, the space, the washrooms, the shower stalls, all of that. And when we look at further discussions on our other buildings, this is something we're going to have to look at. So it's really about dictating what's the need. Like, do we have enough space for our 28 firefighters? What are the recommendations from this committee to council to make sure whatever we do decide for a new building, for new equipment, that we have the room and the storage? Because I don't want, like, the equipment we're buying, we just spent 150,000 on these new units. I don't want them sitting on the floor. So we need space to store our equipment properly. We need all of that, right? So,
We need
and
more units.
more units. That's, yeah,
I have nowhere to put them, so I only bought 10.
there you go. So that's the type, like, and what's another thing that needs to be looked at, and this might be more into the fire, is just those suggestions on how big of a fire department do we really want? Like, when do we limit out? Like, I'm not saying that we're not there yet, but there must be a max area at the end, right? Go ahead, Belinda.
I do have one question when we're talking about that is, through the grapevine, I heard that you already had a plan.
We have a building on file.
Okay, so even looking at that to see what has to change.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so to me, that has to be part of it. So anything that there is existing, we look at and make it, is it still doable, or what has to be changed so we're ready?
Yes, yeah. So, and making sure of those areas where we're not ready, like, what are we not ready? Like, when I look at identify funding sources and opportunities and planning shovel-ready projects for grant applications. So where's the best sources to find the funding sources? Like, how do we put that in the plan of who, it could be the contact people, right? It doesn't necessarily have to lay out every opportunity, but where should we be looking at? Like, in the fire plan, it might say that, you know, every biannually, twice a year, we double check all of the funding that's available, and anything that can fit within our plan, then we can apply. But if we're not doing those regular checks, and if we're just hearing by word of mouth or hearsay or some Twitter feed that there's money coming available, like that's not an efficient way to stay on top of it. So those are what I'm thinking. Like, when you think about it, is try and stay out of the minutia of it, and what's the bigger picture for the guidance of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't want to bog you down, and I don't want to
No.
bog down staff.
And that's not what it was meant.
No,
I never saw it as being bogged down at all. I think, what Michael wants is to follow the fire underwriters survey and come up with the fire master plan, which will explain or dictate all these things, but we're having issues with fire underwriters survey. They want to know when we're buying a truck, and they haven't continued, so I'll continue to push them, but they want to know when we're buying a truck, right? And the fire master plan, it hinges on the fire underwriters survey and a water and wastewater master plan that I've been asking for years, and I haven't received that. And I probably wouldn't even understand it anyways, right? So I guess the fire master plan is hinging on a few other outside issues.
okay, so then that's key. So we have
So
that,
water
our
and
water and
fire.
wastewater master plans here
Are the
to be
fire-
updated every 5 years.
Yeah.
But we don't,
So I need that, plus the fire underwriters survey, and then we go towards the fire master plan. And I think the water and wastewater was a $50,000 expense, and the fire master plan was a $50,000 expense, I believe. I know the fire master plan was a $50,000 expense.
and we need the one
in
before the other
2019,
in
yeah,
2019, but we need the one, we got to do that water and wastewater
According to-
before.
I believe,
Okay.
according to the fire flows in the SE.
Okay, those are the types of things that I'm looking at that are important, that we need to know the flow, and then it's laid out, and then we can go back. And then this whole committee and the ideas and what's captured, even the minutes that are taken, can be forwarded to whoever does our master plan. Like, this was the background work. And I think it'll ensure a lot of good discussion and things that I'm sure we're not even thinking of here. And it's a good mix of council and your firefighters to sit.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion on that, on the mandate? Okay, do we want to include anything within the mandate just to ensure that the SDR, that the items that Eileen referred to and that are included in our strategic plan are included? Do we want to include them somewhere? We do have reviewing, updating, recommending bylaws, policies, or maybe assisting the fire chief in determining methods of meeting legislative requirements and department needs, comma, ensuring strategic plan initiatives are met. Is that?
To be,
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, to be honest, I think it covers it under the third bullet or third point, reviewing, updating, and recommending bylaws and policies pertaining, like the SDR and the strat plan, or policies pertaining to the fire department. I don't think we need to get that specific, but it's up to council.
Okay, does the council feel like they're already captured in there from that report? I'm in agreement with that. Okay, so we're good with the terms of reference as is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that formation of the committee and the terms of reference for vote that I read out. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, and I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to the counselors that stepped up for this, and of course, the fire department and the chief, for those that are volunteering to sit on this committee. So, and thank you, Jen, for being involved as well. Thanks. Okay, 12.4 is council committee updates. Any updates from council?
Nothing to
No,
update this time.
nothing. I'm gonna defer my update to next September 4th. There's nothing too pressing that we need to update council. Go ahead, Jen.
Can I borrow the resolution just? because,
Yes.
I will read
Okay, moving on to 13.1, fire protection grant. If I get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kipsmaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Whereas the Ontario Solicitor, sorry, Jen.
This one, we had some updates. So, fire chief.
Yeah, I think she just, I can,
Okay, I'm gonna read the motion and then we can just add the updates, okay? Whereas the Ontario Solicitor General has opened applications for the first round of the province's fire protection grant with an application deadline of September 5th, 2024. And whereas the first round will target cancer prevention, equipment, supplies, personal protective equipment, minor infrastructure, and minor infrastructure modernization initiatives, enhanced broadband and internet connectivity. And whereas the Office of the Fire Marshal, OFM, has indicated that municipalities will be provided with between 8,000 to 10,000 per active fire station within the community, should they apply. And whereas staff recommend that the town apply for the following capital items, which it reads are not within the township strategic plan: self-contained breathing apparatus, exhaust removal equipment, and a washer and dryer. Therefore, be it resolved that the council does hereby authorize staff to complete an application for the fire protection grant for self-contained breathing apparatus, exhaust removal equipment, and a washer and dryer. Be it further resolved that the township's remaining portion of the 199,500 to 201,500 for the three above dimension items shall be financed through long-term loan as set out in the 2024 capital budget. Okay, updates to the motion.
so I just wanted to advise that it would be best, after further speaking with the fire chief, that it would be best to just go after the SCBA, because we've been advised that we need to meet deadlines by March 2025. Right, Miles?
I believe that it closes March 31st, and the way I read it is it had to be completed by March 31st, but I could be reading it wrong. We were advised that anything we apply for has to be completed by a certain date, or else we'll lose that funding, and that decreases our chances for future funding opportunities. And it's a big stepping stone. So my question to them during the meeting was that I ordered $132,000 worth of SCBA's. Can I put that in there? And if I've ordered them now and I'm receiving them in September, and they said absolutely you're qualified.
Okay.
So, my suggestion was just to apply for the one. It's guaranteed and we'll have it by then. The exhaust removal equipment, we had spoken about doing renovations before we install that, so that may be a year or so down the road before that gets completed. I just want to apply for credit and not be able to complete.
Okay.
Reduce our chance.
I have something to say about that though. When you're talking about exhaust, to me, that's a health and safety thing. I don't think you can leave that. You know what I mean? It's a must.
Mhm.
We have, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
one of our trucks is quite a bit older, and when it starts, it's a huge blue cloud of smoke.
Yeah, and
And
if
it
we
is
don't act
important.
on that, I think that's a responsibility we don't want.
It is important, but for the purposes of the grant,
Okay,
the SCBA is well enough to cover and
Okay.
receive the grant in the
Okay.
first stage.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so within the resolution, the first whereas would stay the same. The second whereas will take out the last two portions of that. So it'll just be the first round will target cancer prevention. Is that right?
So
Sorry,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
speak to that. So the cancer prevention, and then in brackets, it should be just personal protective equipment, not the equipment and supplies and minor infrastructure.
Okay,
And
and then the rest of it's gone, right? Of that whereas?
sorry, so the rest of it is fine, like everything stays the same, and then the this whereas, remove those two,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, and then I got the one.
yeah, the other one, okay.
Okay, so,
Sure.
yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
I just, the price as well gets, or like the amount in the final, for the result, it's changed. To 128,000 to 130,000.
Okay, so with the first whereas stays the same, the second one goes to whereas this first round will target cancer prevention, in brackets, personal protective equipment. The third whereas stays the same. The fourth whereas stays the same, except for the addition, I'll read it, whereas staff recommended that the township apply for the following capital items, which are within the township's strategic plan. And it's the first item, self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA. The therefore be it resolved changes to the therefore be it resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to complete an application for the fire protection grant for self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA in brackets, period. Be it further resolved, township's remaining portion of 120,000 to 130,000 for the above mentioned items, it is plural, shall be financed through a long-term loan as set out in the 2024 capital budget. Is council on board with that? Was that clear enough? Okay. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item number 13.2 is the risk assessment, Hornepayne Fire Department. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas Ontario Regulation 3078-18 states that every municipality must complete a community risk assessment CRA to inform decisions regarding the provision of fire protective services, and whereas a municipality or fire department must complete a comprehensive community risk assessment no later than July 1st, 2024, and whereas staff has obtained a cost estimates quote of $9,980, excluding HST from Lomex Group for the development of a community risk assessment for the Township of Hornepayne, and where it is expedient and efficient to the needs of the community to complete the community risk assessment. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize the CIO clerk to commission the Lomex Group for the development of a community risk assessment for the Township of Hornepayne at the cost of $9,980, excluding HST, to be expensed from the Community Wellbeing Reserve. Any discussion on the motion?
Good.
So I had asked how long it would take to complete because we're already behind the deadline. It's 5 to 6 months. And I wanted to ensure that it fits with all the other things we're doing at the fire department. And those are my only comments. Go ahead, Eileen.
I just wanted to mention to council that there are several municipalities that are in the same boat trying to update their CRA for the fire department. So the ministry is aware, and they're not necessarily going to come back or come down knocking on our door as long as they see that the township is working and moving forward with trying to complete the CRA. So that was my discussions with the OFM advisor.
Any further discussion from council? There being none, I put this to a vote. Those in favor? And that's carried. 13.3 is the nuclear waste management student bursary funds transfer. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas council through resolution number 11-828 set aside $40,000 in the nuclear waste management organization NWMO bursary reserve to establish a student bursary program for the span of 10 years starting June 2014 and finishing June 2023. And whereas due to the fluctuations in graduating class sizes, there remains $8,000 leftover funds. And whereas the acting treasurer recommends transferring the remaining funds to the community wellbeing reserve. Therefore, be it resolved that council does hereby authorize the treasurer to transfer the remaining 8,000 from the NWMO bursary reserve to the community well-being reserve. Any further discussion on that motion? I have one question. Have we allowed the school to know that this bursary is done and finished?
The accounting clerk has sent them the last check that is owed, so yes, they're aware.
Okay,
There's been communication with the school, yeah.
okay. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, there being none, I put this to a vote. Those in favor? And that's carried. 13.4 is the buildings within the township. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby authorize the CAO clerk and the municipal solicitor to proceed with the Ontario Building Code OBC process to demolish a building in the municipality that is not yet owned by the Township of Hornepayne. Discussion on the motion. I have a few different items of discussion on this. I think we need further clarification on how we handle derelict buildings in our community. Because when I read the CAO's report and the advice that was given from the lawyers to get the Ontario Building Code process, to me, it sounds very expensive. And my question is, I've got some misunderstanding on this because I thought when we did tax sale, my understanding was we do a tax sale and then anything that doesn't sell, we vest into the municipality if we want to. And we haven't, I was under the presumption that we were vesting properties since our final tax sale. So I'm not sure on that. Go ahead, Eileen.
It hasn't been brought back to council. There hasn't been the opportunity to look we haven't had the chance to look into vesting or to bring it back to council. So it is something that needs to be brought back to council. It's just something that the staff haven't had the capacity to do at this point. Council can direct staff or the treasurer, the acting treasurer as they wish, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on that.
Okay, because my concern is that if we vest the property and it becomes in our name, we should know the date it comes to our name, so we can plan for that. And if we vest it, say May 2025, and we talk with our public works manager to ensure those buildings come down immediately so that we lessen our liability. Because this other process sounds to me like we have to obtain a professional opinion from an engineer or a licensed architect who can speak to the integrity of the building. I'm sorry, but
Just have to look at it.
yeah, I'm not gonna get somebody 10 grand, tell me that it needs to come down or whatever it is. And this to me, it just speaks to very expensive when we know there's certain buildings that have to come down, like we're not salvaging them. And so I think we need further clarification on the tax sale, how long it takes to vest properties, if we vest them. And then the properties that we put up for tax sale last year, I guess the updated is how many of them actually did sell and how many are sitting there. So that we know what we're dealing with, because regardless of where the liability stays, you know, when it's in a tax sale, like right now I have the question is who actually owns the house then? We put it up for tax sale, so who owns it? Because we had the authority to put it up for tax sale. So when does vesting actually take place? So those are questions that we need to know. So the process, because if it's not vested, then we need to vest it so we can tear it down. And I've never seen this process take place in our community. This one outlined here with the Ontario Building Code process. Because this speaks to me that it's it would be a building that was privately owned and we decided to take their building down on their property. So do you need clarification on?
No, I think that I've got the direction I need to I'll bring back the information to council once I've received it.
Okay, go ahead.
I think, the way we all thought that it was supposed to work didn't show up that way, and actually, we're probably all wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
When it comes to these buildings.
Yeah, I agree.
And some of these buildings we really could use.
Yes,
And Madam Mayor?
yes, go
And on
ahead.
the other hand, there's buildings that we don't want,
Want.
right? So
Yes.
how does that decision get made to make sure that we don't invest something that's a liability, ongoing
Yes,
environmental liability?
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
So we need to have those discussions so that we can move forward with, and the other thing too is what are the costs with vesting? Because this other option seems very expensive to me. And we cannot afford to spend that kind of money to take down a building when we gotta pay the 10 grand to take it down. So. Go ahead.
The deputy clerk has something to add.
Yes, go ahead.
So I imagine council doesn't want to pass this motion. I did draft an alternative motion if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, we can't, like, I don't know the cost, like, for me, this is. We need to know the difference between vesting it, because if we're trying to protect ourselves from liability,
Do you want me to read the?
yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So I put, be it resolved that council does hereby defer item number 13.4 buildings within the township and direct staff to bring further information to an upcoming meeting.
Does that sound,
Is that tight enough or like is it specific enough?
what items we want brought back? Further information on vesting property,
Further information.
and associated costs,
What I could do is further information on the following
okay,
and then do a little bullet point.
sounds good, so, let's see here.
Vesting, sorry if I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
vesting properties, previous tax sale, 2023 tax sale listings. Just an update on where we are in status. And just what items need to be vested, liabilities involved in the costs of vesting.
And did we want like a cost of the OBC process versus the cost of vesting?
I can go back to Wishart if council would like that information.
I
I don't.
don't think we need it. I think we'll figure out how much vesting is, and if it's outrageous, then we'll look to go back. I don't think we need to put the lawyers on the dime. Okay, do you want to read that out, Jen? And if I can get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Ted Sheneman, second by Counselor Belinda Kistermaker.
Eileen, you had said, I'm stuck at, there was something in liabilities.
I said vesting properties, the process it takes or how long it takes to vest properties. Tax, an update from the 2023 tax sale listings or a status update. Vest what items to or buildings to vest in and the liability and costs associated.
So
No, that's okay, Jen. I'm just tired. Don't mind me at all.
I'm not super.
That's okay. I'm relaxed in here just.
So I have, be it resolved, the council does hereby defer item number 13.4 buildings within the township and direct staff to bring further information on the following to an upcoming meeting. Vesting or the process to vest properties, A status update on the 2023 tax sale listing and what buildings to vest and the liabilities and costs associated.
Sound right, council?
6.
Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item 13.5 is the GHG reductions opportunities for the ice rink and curling club retrofit project. And you wanted to speak to this, Eileen?
Yes, I just wanted to mention to council that this item was brought to mind in the Public Works Manager by Mayor Port. And that after quickly reviewing the application and information provided by Simcoe, who would help with the application process. And there is a basic overview of the process that's part of this item that's listed on the agenda. And it does involve, it does need involvement by the Public Works Manager, who's currently on vacation till the end of August. So he would need to complete most of the first step of the application, which is to provide building information for the grant to Simcoe. And it takes about 4 weeks to complete between both the township and Simcoe. It's important to note that there's a certain level of involvement needed between Simcoe and the township for the first initial step. And I would advise that the CAO should be the main point of contact, just because it's not feasible for the Public Works Manager to be that main point of contact, especially with his daily responsibilities. I recommend that council wait to apply until a new CAO has been appointed. However, should council wish to proceed now, I would request that this item be revisited in September, just because of staff vacations in August. And we can provide a report or further information then, and a motion can be drafted should council wish to proceed.
Would some of this work already be done?
Eileen?
I mean, the application still needs to be filled out, so I'm not sure in
But
what.
like when you're talking about the information that you need from like our Public Works Manager, would some of that already be done because of the arena grants we've already put together, or?
I'm sure the information is around. It would still require me or the Public Works Manager to look for it and find it. And I'd have to look into it further.
Well, I'm concerned about this. Because I brought this to staff and council in February of 2023 after the Sustainable FCM conference. We know that the plant's gonna die on us at the curling club. We're putting another $10,000 into it again. And then we're gonna have some other money that we gotta spend at the curling rink. And I am sincere when the curling club comes and sits in our council chambers and we tell them we're gonna do something and then we don't do anything. It's really irritating to me. So I don't know who can be the contact person, but if we don't apply for this now, it will set us back, because we can't apply to the other funds that are available through the GMF if we don't have the feasibility study done. And they need to do the feasibility study while the process, the plant and everything's open. So I'm not sure if those are my comments to council. And I'll tell you what'll happen is we're going to be here next year at this time with a broken curling club plant and no money at all to fix it. So I'm not sure what we're going to prioritize or reprioritize, or if there's someone else that this can be delegated to. Is there any way, like if we're talking about finding the information for the application process, is this something that Jay could do? Go ahead.
I just want to clarify to council, I've never said that we couldn't apply. It's just, we can't apply right now. So if it can wait till September, and mean the Public Works Manager can look at it then and bring further information back to council, but it's not something that I can do for the month of August.
Okay. So what, can we not just give direction tonight? Like, we don't need another report brought back to council.
Yeah,
Because there's no commitment for us to spend any money until we find out if we're approved for the feasibility study.
so yeah, I mentioned, like, if council wants to proceed now, that the public works manager and I can revisit it together in September. And if there's any issues at that time, you know, before I leave, I will be able to give council an update before then. That's agreeable to council.
An update on
Where we are?
Yeah,
in the application process, or that we're applying, or an update on what?
an overall update, whether it's in the application I mean, it takes 2 to 4 weeks, 4 weeks to complete the first part of that application process, right?
Right,
Just
2
to,
to 4 weeks.
yeah, so I can give council an update on where we are in the overall process.
Okay, so do we want to pass a motion for that? Are you crafting one, Jen? Thank you. Well, Jen's crafting that. We'll move on to the next item. 13.6, we'll come back to 13.5 once Jen has the motion done. And Michael, have you stayed with us this entire time?
I am here, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Michael. I just asked Michael to briefly speak to 13.6 for the benefit of our public and council. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. In the course of doing some research for the township, I requested that your staff pull some documents for me. They were pretty thorough in their recovery of documents. In fact, I probably received a few documents beyond what I was asking for. Those two documents, and specifically that caught my attention, were two structural reviews that were conducted in 2019 of two facilities at the township, the Public Works Garage and the arena. Those reviews were done before the current Public Works Manager and your current CAO were on staff. So I thought it was important that for this council, that those reports return to council and that council be aware that there was work that was identified as to be done and completed. And it's been a bit of a challenge determining just how much of that work has been done and completed. Therefore, we requested that the township CBO review the status of the buildings, and he will be releasing a report shortly. Secondly, there is likely a need, given the passage of time, to have the structural engineers who identified the works return and assess the condition of any outstanding works, as well as anything new. So it was recommended that this be brought in front of council, that council consider it, and some recommendations have been prepared in the way of a resolution. And that is what will be before you this evening, Madam Mayor. And I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Okay, and council, do you have any further questions? Well, I have to say that I want to thank you, Michael, for doing our building policy, that maintenance policy, and how this came about to attention. And I think it definitely needs to be looked at. I am sincere about ensuring employee safety and public safety, and would like to act on this. So we do have a motion on the floor, or I can read the motion and put it on the floor, and we can have further discussion from there. I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive the building wall inspection report for the Public Works Garage from Tulloch Engineering Incorporated dated August 8th, 2019. The structural inspection report for the Township of Hornepayne Arena and the C&D Ball Curling Rink from Tulloch Engineering Incorporated, and it's the same date, August 8th, 2019. And the Township of Hornepayne Building Condition Assessment from Accent Building Sciences Incorporated, ABSI, as information. Be it further resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to move forward with the following recommendations. 1, retain a structural engineers who reviewed the Public Works Garage and the arena to update their inspections as soon as possible, and that they present their findings to council. Include a recommended priority list of works that are needed under the following categories. A, immediately, which in brackets urgent safety recommendations would fall into the immediate priority category. B, within 12 months, C, within 5 years, and D, beyond 5 years. 2, request that the structural engineers provide a level of effort for consolidations of facilities review for the township. 3, request that Accent Building Services Incorporated, ABSI, present their building condition assessment BAC results for the Township of Hornepayne as soon as possible. And 4, ensure that the building condition assessment information be integrated with the township's asset management plan, tangible asset, capital assets, and long-range capital forecasts as soon as possible. Be it further resolved that council directs staff to contact the structural engineers as soon as possible this week and make expeditious arrangements for the work that needs to be done. Be it further resolved that staff document their activities accurately and effectively as they manage these issues. Be it finally resolved that any urgent safety recommendations be brought immediately to council's attention. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I would just like to know that just ensuring that we are, will it be by memo? Immediate memo for any safety recommendations?
Yeah.
To bring it to our, okay, and then we can talk if we need to call a special meeting or anything of that sort of nature there, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Michael, do you have any final comments on that?
No, I think you've made the right choice, and I think you're pointing in the right direction.
Okay, great. So council, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried, none opposed. Okay, item number 14.1 and point 2. Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
have.
Oh, yes, we're going back to 13. For that motion, oh, you could read it, Jen, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Go ahead, Jen.
Be it resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to apply for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities FCM Green Municipal Fund GMF Community Building Retrofit funding stream to explore and initiate greenhouse gas GHG reduction opportunities for the Hornepayne Arena and Curling Club. Community.
Okay, it's just the feasibility grant that we're applying for, though.
Okay. So the GHG reduction pathway feasibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Jen updated that. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item number 14 is bylaws, 14.1, 14.2. Do you want to speak to this, Eileen?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to council, after further discussions or after being advised by, or after receiving information from municipal government wayfinders, that they have advised that the implementation process can be a bit lengthy, and just it's our staff's recommendation that it's best to have a CAO in place just so that these policies aren't passed and then sitting on the shelf. So it's just recommended that that it's passed at a later date when there is a new CAO appointed, just so that the township is not held. It doesn't open up the township to liabilities and legalities just because they're not being enforced properly.
That's all right. Okay, so, but we would still, put them in as hereby read a first and second time.
Yes,
And then they would come back for a third reading when we had passed them, correct?
yes, yeah.
Okay,
And then on the actual bylaws, it'll show the first and second readings this meeting and then the past.
okay, great. So if council's in agreement with that, we'll, the first one is, mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Belinda Smaker. Be it resolved that a bylaw to provide standards for maintenance of property within the Township of Hornepayne be hereby read a first and second time. Those in favor? And that is carried. The second one is the use and care of roads bylaw. If I need a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, seconded by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that bylaw to regulate the use and care of roads within the Township of Hornepayne be hereby read a first and second time. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, item number 14.3 is the bylaw just to amend the name because there's been a transfer of ownership. We can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be resolved that bylaw number 2088 being a bylaw to amend the garbage pickup and landfill transfer station operation agreement with Hornepayne Service Center Incorporated be hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. Any discussion on the motion or on the bylaw? There being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, and we've dealt with the closed session and all the items from the closed, and now we go to adjournment. 18.1 moved by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be resolved that bylaw number 2089 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at their regular meeting held on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 be hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. Those in favor? And that is carried, and we adjourn. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved the council does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 at 9:42 p.m. Those in favor? Thank you, council. Thank you, Miles and Jen and Eileen.